business 101 stuff. I look for cash flow. Do the deal. And the reason is you have to do the deal that's in front of you.
Hello, and welcome to the Gain3d Business Development Marketing Podcast. On today's episode, we interview Grant Rigner. He's just starting his journey out on the multifamily and apartment complex investing. We discuss how he got started, where he's at today, and his strategy for growth into the future. I hope that you enjoy this episode, and if you do, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so you can catch more content. Welcome to the Gain3d Marketing and Business Development Podcast, Grant Rigner.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, you haven't always been doing commercial real estate, correct?
Correct.
What were you doing before?
So when I started working for myself, I knew real estate was something I wanted to be a part of my business, going forward. So I started off doing some residential stuff and actually did my first real estate investment while I still had my W-2 job. So it took a little bit of a leap there, but I wanted to kind of have a proof of concept to see if it could be done. And, if it's possible for you to do that, to work a job and then, start something on the side, it's a great way to do it. Mm-hmm. You have less anxiety about money and you can sort of prove it out, which is what I was trying to do. So yeah, I bought a single family house that I wanted to renovate and turn into a rental. And I operated that for a few months, again, while I had my job, until I felt like I had some numbers, some results that I could show and communicate to people. Yep. And I knew that if I wanted to do more of real estate, that if I had enjoyed the process and I wanted to do more and scale, I wasn't going to be able to do it with, a job. I needed to raise money from other people. So to have those results, super valuable and helpful as far as, getting started. So.
Right. So, did you reach out to like mentors beforehand? Any classes?
Absolutely. So it was probably about 2018, like late 2018, maybe. I started looking at what I wanted to do. And I knew that, working the job wasn't for me always. I feel like I got to that point late. I think if I had had some more people in my circle who were in business and who were entrepreneurs, they would have seen that I was an entrepreneur and probably would have helped guide me. But I was kind of asleep to that fact. So I was just kept working and I kept finding myself in unhappy positions and situations. So yeah, in 2018, while I was working, I started looking, okay, what if I am going to do something for seriously this time? I had dabbled, but seriously, if I'm not going to ever have a job again, what kind of business would I like to do? So I kind of reverse engineered the lifestyle. Like, what kind of lifestyle do I want to live? Yep. And I settled on a few different businesses. And so I figured I'd try out a couple. Real estate was one of them. So yeah, to answer your question, I started, going to YouTube University, doing as much as I could on there. I signed up for some classes that were a little bit more official on real estate investing. And I started going to meetups and doing a couple seminars, nothing super fancy. I wasn't dropping $5,000 and buying these courses and anything. I was trying to do as much as I could with the time that I had. And I studied it a lot. And then I found a mentor through that. So through that process, I found a mentor named Austin Rutherford out of Ohio. Shout out to him. You can find him on YouTube and Instagram. But so I would email him questions from time to time. And he wasn't super huge at that point. And so he was real helpful in giving me some advice and getting me going. And then I had a few other people as well that I leaned on, a couple local people. So yeah, definitely did some studying, got some mentors, and that really, I feel like, saved me a lot of time and saved me from making some mistakes that I probably would have made.
So when you're approaching a potential investment property, what do you look for?
Man, so I think one of the first things I look for is, the size of the project. Is it something I can take on? Is it something I can handle? Do I have the right pieces in place to even be able to do it? And so a few parts of that are location, where is it? And do I
Yep.
have connections there in that location? And then, what kind of work is it going to take? Is it going to be a 6-month project? Is this going to take 24 months? So right now I'm focusing on projects that are no more than 18 months. If they're going to take more than 18 months, I generally will shy away from them. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is business 101 stuff. I look for cash flow. You don't want to have a
Yep.
business that you're paying to keep open. It doesn't work. You'll
Yeah.
crash and burn very quickly. So I look to get to cash flow very quickly. If it's not day one where I'm bringing in more money than my expenses are going out, then it needs to be fairly soon, within a few months. So generally part of the way through the project, let's say the project period is 12 months, I would like to see cash flow, 6 months or so in. So size of the project, and then is this thing going to cash flow and be positive to where we're not going to lose the deal? It's all, a lot of it is about safety.
Yep.
Just making sure that you keep what you've got, and you protect your investors' capital and all that.
So you work with partners on some of these deals then?
Absolutely. I'm a huge collaborator. I'm like a born collaborator. So, one, it's helpful for me to scale. I can't scale without outside funding of some kind. So that's really important. And then two, it's just fun, Rory. It's just more fun,
Yep.
rather than working on an island, where you will find some people like that. And those people are often slower to scale. They're a little greedier, I find. They're harder to work with. And it's just not their style. I'm the opposite. So I want to be able to celebrate the wins with somebody and share, So I love having teams.
Yeah.
So
I'm more like that, and
Yeah.
my brother's more like the other
The other.
investor.
Yeah.
He's been doing single family homes, Airbnb in most of them.
Nice.
And I've been trying to explain the benefits of multifamily and apartment complex. When you got one roof instead of four.
Exactly. There are pros and cons to each. My mentor, who I mentioned earlier, Austin, he's a single family home guy. Now, it's not that he only does that, but that's his bread and butter, and he's really good at it. And there are pros to that. And one of the pros is that you can get out of single family investments very easily. You can literally pop them on Zillow and you can get your money out. So that's something that you can't do in multifamily. But multifamily also has huge benefits. Like you mentioned, you fix one roof, you might have just housed 30 units, 50 units, 100 units.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of efficiency there that if you can operate it well, knowing that going in, that the expenses are going to be larger numbers, but actually if you break it out per unit, it's way cheaper. So you just have to wrap your mind and overcome some of those fears when you're going into commercial and going into bigger properties.
Yeah. Another negative towards single family homes that I can think of right now would be also, you got one tenant, and that tenant leaves, then you got to find
100% vacant, right?
Yeah. And where, if you have 30 units and one or two of them, you're still 95% occupied, and it's still sellable to another investor at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is something I do disagree with a lot of people saying online, where it's like, hey, it's just as much work to buy a commercial multifamily product as it is a single family rental. And I would disagree with that. It's really common for people to say, hey, there's all these benefits, and it's really not much more work. I would disagree with that. It is more work. It's not, relatively speaking, it's fine. It's a good return for the amount of time that you invest. It's definitely a great way to go. But to underwrite, even you're underwriting a property, you're looking at two deals. One's a single family house, one's an apartment. It's going to take you probably 2 to 3 times longer. And that's if you're good, if you're really efficient, to underwrite that apartment building as opposed to underwriting a single family house. So, and then there's even more stuff beyond that. The due diligence periods are longer. And even if you disagree with me and you think that the opinion is incorrect, if you just look at the the facts of it, you can see how long it takes to close a multifamily property. The average time to close is about 90 days. And that's generally if things go really smoothly.
Yeah.
Well, I've closed a single family house in 7 days. So
Yeah.
they're not equal in the amount of work. But I think the value in commercial multifamily is still there. You put in a little extra work and you learn a few extra skills, and you can close, still, let's say 40 units. I'm under contract for a 41 unit building right now. It's going to take us, probably a couple months. It's already been, we already started it in the summer. Probably a couple months to do it, but we've just purchased, when we close, we'll just have purchased 40 homes. The equivalent amount of time to do that in single family would be far greater. Like how long is it going to take to close 40 individual houses?
Yeah.
Way more, right? So
yeah, it makes
still
the
a
exit
benefit.
strategy easier then too. Like
Yeah.
if you have 40 single family homes, you're gonna have to try and package those together and sell them to a dentist or a chiropractor or some other dummy who has money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So again, man, pros and cons to both. I respect the single family guys. I started off there. If you have a team that's really efficient and good at doing it, it's a great way to go. And I would never tell anyone, hey, if you have a good single family deal, if the numbers work, I would never say, don't do it. Do the deal. And the reason is you have to do the deal that's in front of you. The opportunities only come along so much, so often.
I get it.
So come on, get out. Bye, Cisco. We had a dog come in and visit us, Mr. Cisco.
Yeah, we'll cut that out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's no problem.
I heard the HVAC kicking on too, so that's gonna cause some sound coming through the door. And so
Yeah.
I thought I'd just get him out.
No worries,
Close
man.
the door.
No worries. So yeah, where were we? Yeah, talking about single family. So yeah, if the opportunity is there, take the opportunity, do the deal, learn about investing, make some money, and then you can level up.
Yep.
So yeah, those are my thoughts on single family versus the multi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was thinking while you were talking, and then the dog came in and distracted me.
So you said you've got a family member doing some single family stuff, maybe some Airbnb.
Yeah.
Tell me about how that's going.
He seems to be doing really well. I think I don't want to speak for him, but they go with luxury brand. It's more of a luxury brand. So they have lake access on 2 of their properties, and then the other one is a brand new build that's over near the Winona Trails. So access to the lake within like 2 or 3 blocks, I think, and then the trails are like a block away. So
that's cool.
And they've had most of it rented out for the whole time that they've owned it. They use a person to come in and clean, and I think she's taken over management now.
Nice.
So he's it's relatively hands off for him in that aspect. He doesn't see the clients or the customers
guests.
or whatever, the guests. He never has to interact with them.
Yeah.
Someone else handles that if there's any complaints. He mainly just does like maintenance and like painting repair, or if when it snowed, he had shovel and throw some salt and stuff like that. But
yeah, that's a good place to be. I've got one Airbnb unit, and one of the strategies that I've been looking at more is actually opening up a couple short-term or mid-term rental units in our commercial and multifamily buildings. And so that may be something that we experiment, with this building that we're working on now. But I've got one midterm rental now, and man, if you can find the guests to stay midterm, which is midterm is generally 30 days or longer.
Mm-hmm.
It's very lucrative, and a couple of the great markets for that are like emergency stays. So let's say you've got a storm damage, issue at your home, a tree's fallen on your home or something like that. Those people need places to stay, and insurance will pay So all of a sudden you have an insurance agency as your client. They're never late. They have great policies as far as like, hey, if we don't give you enough notice, they'll pay for a full month, even if the guest doesn't stay a full month. And they're just easy to work with. It's stable and steady, and
That's
the pay is
nice.
really high, so it can help a lot, but there's only so many of those to go around.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
knowing where you're opening those and then having the connections with like employers and insurance companies are really important. So definitely a question to ask your manager if you go to hire a manager, hey, what are your connections like in this? Do you think we can fill this up with guests? And the pay is so good, the rent that you're getting is so good that even if your property's only full 50% of the year, you can cash flow so much that it's even more than being 100% full on the year with a regular tenant in there.
So you found yourself in an odd situation, praying for hurricanes and tornadoes.
Right.
Well,
Right.
get me some
Listen,
guests.
I'm not going to complain when they come. I might not be praying for them, but I'm not complaining either.
So we'll kind of go to my cheat sheet here. The challenges you faced when moving from a W-2 to doing this.
Money, Rory. Come on, man. Money.
Yeah.
Money gets tight, any entrepreneur that's started a new venture from zero, which is what I did, can understand the pain of it. And it took some planning. And I think this is one of the values of having me on, and what I'm hoping, the viewers and listeners can get some value out of, is I view myself as somebody that's in between starting and success. So I'm not a guru. I'm not ultra successful. I don't have 1,000 units.
Yep.
And I'm not on here to talk about that, but I hope to be a voice of like the in-between phase, the hard phase, because when I was doing all my learning and the YouTube university and all that, it seemed like everybody was successful and they'd already kind of made it. So I want to share some stuff about that. So that's a great question.
Yep.
So one of the things I did at the beginning was made sure that I was debt free personally. So I didn't have that as an anchor around. So I made sure, credit cards were paid off. I didn't have any car payments. And we just basically cut expenses as much as possible, just as a good foundation. And you need that anyway. If you're going to get into a business, you need to understand finance anyway. So, and I've always kind of been good with it, but I just shored it up, and then the second thing we did was have some savings. So that's one reason why I continued working, even though I had my first rental and it was going well. I kept working anyway for almost another year while I had that, just to add some money to savings to help pay bills during the startup period. So, so struggles and hurdles, money is something you definitely need to think about, because you're not going to have income necessarily. Few people have done it. Few people have done it where they've been able to build up a side business that is doing well enough to pay their bills while they still have their job. I didn't have that kind of freedom. I didn't have a job where I could work from home. I didn't have, time freedom. So I was locked to a desk basically. So for me, I had to prepare in advance and just take the leap. Other challenges are generally surrounding people. It's hard to build a team. It's hard to find the right people that you gel with.
Yep.
People that, share your culture, people that show up. Sometimes you just need people to show up. You don't need them to gel with you. And so that's always a struggle, and building a team is tough, man. Finding a contractor, finding a good real estate agent, finding a good partner, finding somebody who commits financially to an investment and then shows up,
Yep.
Always a challenge. I think it always will be. Perhaps 10 years from now, maybe I'll have that core team and I'll just be able to cycle through my Rolodex, my digital Rolodex, and things will be smoother sailing. But yeah, that's always a challenge. So.
Yep. So, tell me about some failures along the way.
Oh, failures.
Yeah, any lost
Do we
deals?
have those? Do we have failures?
Yeah, well, they're learning experiences.
Yeah, they're learning experiences. No, man, I've had several failures. So back at the beginning of my story, when I was talking about 2018 and making the decision and looking at some other businesses, I did try to do some other businesses. And I would say my biggest failure was Technical difficulties. Oh, we'll be back after this.
Hmm.
No, my biggest failure was trying to do too many different businesses, too many different industries.
Yep.
So I had a tech startup that I was working at like 30 plus hours a week. I tried another business that was e-commerce that was supposed to be passive. I was supposed to be just an investor in that business. Turned out everybody was calling on me and pulling on me to try to make that thing run. And I was pulled in so many different directions that nothing was running as smoothly as it should. And so, yeah, a couple of those things failed outright. You know, the e-commerce business was an outright failure. You know, we lost money on that, me and my partner. Still hurts me to think about. Yeah, so I learned from that failure, I learned I needed to focus. Just at least pick one industry. And then even in that industry, go deeper, go even niche down even more than that. So yeah, man, several failures. I definitely have picked a wrong partner before, who wasn't a good culture fit. And I didn't know the questions to ask back then and to take more time with it. So that's another thing I learned was, hey, take more time with partnerships.
Yep. Slow to hire, quick to fire.
Quick to fire, man. Slow to hire is really great. I'm excited about a deal. I want to talk to this partner. I want to sign on it. Let's get this thing going. You have to have an element of that where the energy is there and the vision is there. But one of the things that I do, practically speaking, is I have a meeting and then I say, okay, here's the situation. Here's what I'd like to do. But why don't you take a week and think about it? And I actually push it back onto, the person who I'm thinking about hiring or the partner I want to bring on to a deal. And I basically force days on the calendar in between our conversations. And I ask a lot of questions during that time, several meetings. I'll even do some questions over email in between the meetings. So we keep the dialogue going. Yep. But I basically, no decisions, that are a couple days. It's always several weeks. And it hurts a little bit because I want to move. I've got the energy and the drive to get this thing done, whatever it is. But I found it valuable to take a pause and let time develop. And it's funny what can come out during that time, where you realize, oh, maybe this person's not a good fit for this role, or maybe this person's not a good fit as a partner, and I'm going to pursue this other person. So time is very revealing.
Yeah. To expound on that, I've been listening to the 48 Laws of Power. I just started it.
Yeah. Is that Napoleon Hill?
No. Robert Greene, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Robert Greene. I mean, it's on my phone, so and we're recording with it right now, so I can't check. Sorry. But that was one of them. Is that patience is probably a skill of power of the powerful, and being patient and at the same time not necessarily letting everyone know your entire plan. So being patient. Just sitting back and letting other people talk while you listen, eventually they'll give up the information that you need from them. And so the patience in that aspect to make sure that, you're going down the right path is probably an important piece to business. Yeah,
100%, man. That's a really good correlation to what I'm talking about. And it's valuable in a microcosm like that, even in a meeting. And then it's valuable over the course of weeks too. It's the same principle. Yep. Great reference.
Yeah. And I was also going to say that originally I had the one thing from Gary Keller on this book stand here, but my dog ate the book. So
you must have really loved it.
Yeah, he loves eating expensive books, especially hardbacks.
Limited editions.
Yeah, I had to make sure to hide the Bible from him. I'm like, you're not going to eat this one, buddy. No. I've had this one for too long. So let's go back to the cheat sheet here. So let's continue on that same aspect then. So team building, what strategies do you employ other than patience? Like what do you look for in your team? What do you think complements you?
Oh, I would say
in your business.
I'm still learning that process. I've hired a couple people, and I've got a couple more new ones I hope to do next year. So still new to the process, but I would say that the traditional questions that people ask when they're trying to bring somebody on, they don't really work.
Yeah.
That's my opinion with very little experience again. And I've learned from other people on what I think are some really good questions to ask that have worked for them, and they have been working for me. And some of those, just for example, one is, finding out what the person does in their free time.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be sort of like a way to personally connect with a candidate. Before, some places would actually include that in their list of interview questions. Oh, what do you do for fun? It's like an icebreaker or whatever. But actually, you can glean more about the way a person really lives by turning away from work and getting them out of that sort of that work mindset where they're there to impress you and they're trying, to present an image of themselves. And you just ask real questions that are things they can't really make up on the fly. So a couple things that I love hearing are people that are into personal development. So, hey, what do you do in your free time? Oh man, I love, reading about real estate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. What have you been reading? Oh, and then they can actually name some books.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah. And
crushing it in apartments.
Yeah,
Or,
exactly. They're
the
reading
Bigger
the
Pocket
latest
books, probably.
Brandon Turner book, The Bigger Pockets or whatever.
That's the next one. So
nice. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, what are you listening to? Oh, I love listening to podcasts. Well, people don't listen to podcasts like that, business podcasts, if unless they're finding it fun or they have some kind of motivation.
Yeah, like my girlfriend would listen to My Favorite Murder podcast. And so I started listening to it with her, but I'm like, this, I don't really want to hear about people getting stabbed to death all the time.
Yeah, we need a little balance here, a little positive.
How about some making money?
Yeah, so those kinds of things are like, really revealing about a person. And so it's like, that's more about who they are. And it's funny how much you can pull out of those personal questions more than you can hey, how long have you been doing this? This, that, and the other thing. And I've found too, so far, again, I'm just at the beginning here, but that people who are new to it are almost more productive, more energetic, more excited than some people who are experienced with it. So I actually, for my last person, I hired an acquisitions manager for an off-market company. So this is a company that just tries to find real estate that's off-market, direct to seller, no agents, no brokers. And I went with somebody deliberately who had no experience. And it was a much better experience for me, having him on board. He was outworking people who were older, more mature, more experienced. And so I'm finding some value in that as well.
It's that day one mentality.
Yeah.
So it's hard to maintain that even in my current job.
Yeah.
Like, it's my W-2 job, so to speak, where I'm a systems administrator. And I feel like I've become pretty proficient at it. And so I get bored real easily. And to maintain that day one drive to learn more, to like focus in on more. I mean, it's also hard in the atmosphere in which I'm in, because it's a internal department in a company, so it's just one company. It's not like an MSP where you're dealing with
multiple clients,
40, 50 sometimes. It's like the issues change and mutate throughout the day. You could be coding, could be database, be access control, and so you got a lot more in that. And day one attitude, I think, was there for me until I found out that the owner of that business had just basically been lying to me and the customers and cutting communication off between departments. And the stress level just skyrocketed at that point. And so that's when I came back to the W-2 job that I'm in. But I realized in that time as well, like this isn't my last job. I don't want this to be Milton with my red stapler in the basement. Like, I want to get out and,
Yeah.
start talking to people and involve myself in the community. And so that's why I've, kind of started this and started talking to
Yeah.
business owners like yourself.
Well, this is fantastic, man. And I appreciate you having me on. And I've known you for a while, and I've seen you try some different stuff. So I see that entrepreneurial spirit in you. And it doesn't mean that you'll start some massive business, but I hope that you give one a try, because I know you've done some side hustles like I have in the past,
Yep.
but I hope you try, just
Yeah.
because I think you'll never regret it. Even if you fail, you will not regret trying. And so super proud of you for doing this show, and for putting yourself out there, first of all, and then also being willing to learn. And yeah, man, appreciative for you for having me on too, and
Yep.
give me a chance to share like what it's like in between success and starting. There's this middle ground where there are a lot of challenges. So anyway, keep going, man.
So
I'm excited to
business
see what you do.
growth then, like what are your strategies? Like what type of typical client do you look for? And then like how do you, I don't know, provide service to that client?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I have two different sort of customers in the business. And the first customer is the tenant. Anytime we purchase a property, or we're operating a property, the money is coming in from the tenant. We get income from the rents and from vending and other things that are happening on site, maybe storage. So keeping them happy is one set of challenges. And it's like just providing good service, a good place for them to live. We practice ethical landlording, which means we take care of problems right away. They're trusting us with their home. So it's really important that we do that right. And if we do that right, it also helps our business by keeping our income, our revenue consistent. We're just looking for consistent revenue. It doesn't have to be super high, but it just needs to be, steady Eddie. The second set of customer that I sort of have to deal with, it's not the proper word, but would be investors and partners.
Okay.
And I need to keep them happy as well. And that's a totally different thing. So the number one thing is I need to protect their capital. When they invest with me, I make sure that they have protections in place. So first of all, they're either on title as a member of the LLC that owns the property. So they're literally an owner. Which allows them all kinds of protections, from insurance policies,
taxes.
What else? That's what I'm looking for. The asset itself. The capital is backed by the asset. So unlike stocks and startup companies where your investment can go to zero and you're left with nothing because you never really had anything. You didn't have any physical anything.
Yeah.
You're part of the building, and the land is yours. You literally own a percentage of it. And then we also have a second type of investor that's a little bit more short-term investor, where we will borrow their capital and then return the capital fairly quickly, like within 2 years. Sometimes it's 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. And even then, we provide the land and the building as a fallback. They're basically
sort of collateral on their loan.
Yeah, it's collateral. So, and they'll be typically they'll be in first position if it's a single capital lender. If we have multiple capital lenders, then they might be in first, second, or third position. But generally, we only do one. Only do one investor.
Easier to.
Yeah. So no matter what the type is, their investment is protected by the land. So let's say that I, as the operator, the guy running the deal, put the deal together, did all that stuff. Let's say that I get sick of it one day. Something happens, I snap, and I fly to Alaska, and I'm gone. Or let's say Venezuela, wherever they don't. Do they do extradition there?
I'd probably go to El Salvador because of Bitcoin.
All right, El Salvador.
Take my one Bitcoin to El Salvador.
I'm going to plug that into my Google Maps. We'll save that one. So let's say that I do that. No matter what type of investment you did with me, your worst case scenario is that you will get back a significant portion of your capital, if not all of it. And your best case scenario is that you'll even make money. Even though I left and the investment didn't get fully executed, We buy at discounts. We do not pay full market rent for any properties.
Yep.
So there's margin just built in there. So if I disappear, I can basically be foreclosed on, or my partners are already owners in the LLC and they can basically vote to sell the property and recover their capital. So one of the greatest things about real estate is how safe it is compared to all other types of investment.
So if when you're vetting potential investors, what's the criteria you're looking for?
That's a great question. I'm looking right now, I'm looking for somebody that has invested in something prior. Doesn't have to be real estate, but if they understand the concept of investing, they're going to be very aligned with me because I'm an investor. I'm a long-term thinker.
Mm-hmm.
I put money into something and we do a bunch of hard work. And then when the returns come in, I like to share the reward with everybody, with all the partners. So if my partners have done any kind of investment before, I'm very interested in talking with them. I've done deals before with some partners who were brand new. It was their first investment. Everything went great, but it took a lot longer. I have to hold their hand through a lot of the process, and I sort of have to train them on how this is going to go. And it's more work. And I'm fine with doing that again, but right now I'm really excited about working with people who've done any kind of investing before.
Yeah, I got the mental image that you were just handing a box of crayons over to the first time investors.
Yeah.
You fill in the color by numbers.
Yeah. You'll want to use blue for right here.
Yeah. So I think, through this conversation, your leadership style has kind of portrayed itself, but do you have a specific mindset that you're approaching when, as a leader? I mean, you've hired some people now, so you got to mentor them. And
yeah, I really love sharing. And again, this goes back to my collaborative nature. I love being an open book. And so anyone that works with me, they're going to get to know everything I do. I will take them with me to all my meetings, regardless if it has to do with their job or not, because I want to immerse them in my world. And I want them to find the best place for them, wherever they're going to be the most satisfied. So they might love acquiring new real estate, looking for deals. They might love deal hunting and talking with sellers. They might love talking with investors and buyers, and they might love that side of it. They might like doing the paperwork or working in Excel, like pushing up the glasses and doing the numbers. They might love that.
That's not me.
So, yeah. I think, basically immersing them in everything. Almost picture like parenting, which is another thing I know nothing about really, but you'll hear a lot of the parents that I look up to as being wise. They expose their children to a lot of different things, and then what the children latch onto, they encourage. And so I'm kind of taking that approach with people that work for me, of being totally open. I show them everything. If they're not in love with the role that they started with, I will help them move over. The second thing I would say, as to your leadership question, is I really want a low stress environment. We are not saving the world every day. We are not superheroes. We are not firefighters. Those guys
Tesla engineers.
Those guys are heroes, right?
SpaceX engineers.
Right, yeah. We're not going...
I'm pretty sure that's how Elon gets them all motivated. We're saving the world.
We're saving the world, man. We're going to save the species.
Are we really, Elon? Are we?
Yeah, so I like the opposite of that. I'm like, hey, we're not saving the world. We don't need to be having, crazy emotions in the office. There shouldn't ever be anyone screaming at a teammate. But Rory, I've been at jobs, and I know you have too, where people are yelling at each other at work, and the culture just, it kills everything, man. Even somebody who's not even involved in the conflict, it does them no good. They don't feel good at the end of the day, just knowing that was even going on. So for me, low key, low stress, go ahead and make mistakes, learn from the failures. We're not going to be yelling at each other, and it just doesn't matter. So just zooming out and having a wider perspective, I think, helps with that. Just calm, peaceful. If we get cursed out by a homeowner, when we're calling to ask to buy their home, hey, it's fine. We treat them with respect, respond calmly. And if I behave in that way as the guy near the top of the company, I'm wanting that to be perpetuated down.
Yep.
So, and then, part of the other low stress portion of that is let's have some fun too, So whenever we close a deal, we celebrate. I don't care how small a deal it is. Maybe we only make $5,000. Dude, we are going out for ice cream. We're going out for drinks. We're gonna go
Nice.
bowling. Whatever. We're gonna do something
Yep.
fun and celebrate. So, yeah. But again, man, I'm learning.
hmm
I don't think I have the perfect system, but one day at a time.
So, you're do you have to do any marketing strategies for this? Or, I mean, I see, you're posting on LinkedIn and trying to generate some attention there. Is that, your main focus is in LinkedIn or?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely am boosting the marketing a little bit. I'm trying to share more about what I'm doing. There's basically nobody, none of my mentors, and nobody who's been in the field for a time who says, you shouldn't do that. Everybody says you should,
Yep.
and expanding your network fits in with what I learned several years ago of, hey, I need to collaborate with people in order to scale and make this work. So marketing is a huge part of that. I started doing some online stuff when I felt comfortable. And for me, I needed to do a couple deals first to
Yeah.
feel comfortable. It's not necessarily the right way to do it. But for me, that's what I needed.
Yeah, I
So,
kind of feel the same way. It's the marketing business that I'm launching.
yeah,
I'm working with a partner. They it's a white label service of sorts. So I am sort of like the project manager and the head of sales
awesome.
for the company. Where then once I get a customer, finally, then they take over and do all the work for the customer. So they have 15 years experience, 180 people on the team to be able to do this work. So that freed up my fear of not being able to both sell the service to
And
someone
deliver.
and deliver.
Right.
And so I have someone that can deliver the service now, and they will also do my own marketing campaign for me. But I'm like, after I'm getting the numbers, I'd like a customer first before I start like pouring money into advertising. So
Yeah.
I'm currently reaching out to anyone I know. Obviously.
Yeah, friends and family circle, F&F.
Yep.
If you start there and work your way out, it's a great place to start. And then, for me, for marketing, especially for investors, absolutely showing any type of execution. And it doesn't have to be you specifically. Like you said, you have this partner who's going to help you on the delivery. Anything they've done in their past life in this
Yep.
space
Yeah, and
counts.
it's showcased on my website then.
Yeah,
as,
absolutely,
here's
man.
work we've done, and
It's the best. That is the best marketing you can do is show somebody, hey, we had a real client and we did XYZ for them, and here were the results.
Yep.
If you can communicate that in a bite-sized format that people can grasp quickly, and then do it consistently,
Yep.
it can even be the same story, just over and over and over and over.
yeah,
Just do that. I think that's probably one of the best marketing techniques is just showing execution. So that's what I'm trying to do now is show all the deals that I've done, and you'll see on some of my social posts, I'll go over the real numbers. I show you the purchase, the rehab, how much money we made,
hmm
how much money we're making per month on the cash flow. Did I partner? Did I do it myself? And showing that I've gotten great response from that. So I hope to amp it up. I would love to do a lot more. I'd love to do a lot more video stuff. And I've already been talking with people. I've gotten some quotes on, guys to do some video shoots for me. And so I know I need to do better with the marketing.
yeah,
And it's on the list, but I want to close a couple more deals first. And
yeah.
then
No,
think
I
go all
understand.
in.
I'm not trying to sell you right now
Oh yeah,
on
yeah,
it,
no
but
problem.
just talking about it, it's something that's on my mind is the business that I'm starting. So
Yeah, that's great, man. That's great. Well,
Um,
well, please do keep me in mind, is what I'm saying.
it's an exit strategy that are you long-term investment on all of your deals, and you plan on passing them down to like a extended family member because you don't have child, right?
Yeah, no kids. Yeah, I go into each deal with the intent right now of holding it long term. But it's not a specific time period necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've been learning, when I first started, everything I was just going to hold, build this massive, portfolio. And then, but what I've been learning is timing, can be important. And we all have different seasons of life. You'll hear me talk about that a lot, even off camera. And so there are seasons where it's important to be open to selling assets and
Yep.
or moving money, shifting funds from one asset to another. And so you just kind of have to be open to that. So my goal right now is to get to 100 units of housing,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to be cash flowing, cash flow positive on those. Um, and after that, I might do some more investments where even at the outset, the plan is to purchase an asset, renovate it, and then sell it, basically increase the value.
Yeah.
And in multifamily, you can make some really good money doing that. It's essentially a flip. It just takes a lot longer, than single family. So there may be a time where I do some of those deals, or there may be a time when
Mm-hmm.
an asset is that I am holding and was planning to hold for 20 years. I get an offer on it that I just can't say no to. And I look at how long is it going to take me to make that money if I keep operating it versus if I just take the deal now.
Yep.
There may be a time. So I'm learning to be more open to that. But my overall goal is to hold and get some cash flow and then
Mm-hmm.
use that cash flow to live off of and provide the lifestyle that I'm looking for. But yeah, you got to be open to different exit strategies.
Yeah, so I had signed up for Grant Cardone, obviously the 10X,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you see it down there, and also his real estate program as well. And um, he says that the first thing he does when he buys an apartment complex is remove things to add value. So if there's some trees, pulls the trees out. Just pull something out,
Mm.
remove something from the property, and it actually makes all the tenants feel that they're doing something to the property and that value is being added without actually adding something to the property. So
Interesting.
I don't know if that's a strategy you want to think about applying. But I thought it kind of made sense. Like just sometimes things can be hidden by the overgrowth of plants.
Yeah.
It's like the first property I looked at was a 4-unit apartment complex here in Warsaw on Pike Lake.
Okay. Yeah.
It ended up being in the floodplain, so that was kind of negative
Should
on
get
the
hammered on
purchase.
insurance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was gonna have to live there, so I was gonna have to
Yeah.
either sell this place or pretend
Right.
to live
Yeah,
there,
get your
one of the
1 year
two.
in. Yeah.
And it I waited on it for 24 hours and lost the deal. So
Mm. Yeah.
which I was fine with. I mean, it was going to be my first one, but I did see potential in it, and most of the potential I saw was just removing the landscaping and cleaning it up,
Yeah.
basically, and
Yeah.
it would make the entrance to the building that much nicer.
Yeah, there is a strategy for removing stuff. I wasn't aware that that was one of the things that Grant Cardone did or why he did it. But one of the other reasons that you might want to do that is just to simplify a complex business. So if you view each property as its own business,
Mm-hmm.
and you see your income and expenses, and so you can add value by either increasing the income or reducing expenses. And sometimes if the business is overly complex, like maybe they have a Zen garden in the back or something, and somebody's in there daily raking, the sand or whatever, sometimes removing that can immediately cut an expense out,
Yep.
and you've immediately increased the value of the property. More commonly, what you'll see is like a vendor who's just been there for 20 plus years and they're overcharging like crazy, and no one's gotten a new quote in that time, 20
Mm-hmm.
years.
Yep.
So you call a different trash vendor, or you call a different, maintenance guy or whatever, maintenance team, and you can reduce expenses very quickly that way. So yeah, removal can sometimes equal simplification, and you can generate some value that way. as far as activity to show the tenants, that things are being done, I could see maybe that, but
Mm-hmm.
in the deals we do, we prefer to add things, so we'll upgrade the countertops. We've talked about adding a dog park in the green space, things like that.
Yep.
And I think that's probably a little bit higher impact than removing something. But I can see how that'd be helpful.
So, how do you hunt your deals?
I
Is that a
think
trade secret you're not going to share?
not at all, not at all. Happy to share. I think actually deal sourcing is one of my strengths. I have way more deals than I can close. And I don't think I planned for it to be that way, but for whatever reason, it's just something I'm good at. And I've invested a lot in relationships early on. So, back when I was telling you I was going to those meetups
Yep.
and learning the business, I was networking the whole time. And I mean, really networking. It wasn't just a selfish, hey, I'm taking value. I was connecting with these people and asking questions. And so I built up a network, which was very helpful. And I have found deals from that network, people literally giving me deals. I sent out an email a year ago to an investor, to actually a couple investors who I had held a networking event for. So I actually hosted this event. Some people showed up that I invited, and I got a response back from an investor who I didn't even invite. They just came to this event because their investor buddy was going. So they showed up. So I sent out an email a few weeks after this event saying, hey, I'm looking to buy. Does anyone have anything for sale? And Rory, in a couple weeks later, I had a signed contract with one of the investors. I did the deal completely off books for a
Yep.
multifamily property. We negotiated within an hour. We were done. We speak the same language. So bam, 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 very quickly. Never hit the market. No one ever knew it was even available
Nice.
because I was there.
Yeah.
So I've done several deals like that. So networking, to answer your question specifically, is one way that I find deals. Another way is, looking on market where a lot of people aren't looking, or where they are looking, but they're maybe overlooking like a secondary or tertiary market.
Mhm.
So let's say Indianapolis, for example,
Yep.
super hot investor market, crazy, just on fire. You can't find a good deal. Well, I'm looking at a deal in Kokomo, Indiana, which is an hour north of Indianapolis.
Yep.
Well, who has their filters set up for Kokomo, especially out of state? People that are doing large multifamily deals, they're not exactly
That's
looking there.
still a city of what, 50, 60,000?
Oh, yeah, more than that. Yeah,
Okay.
tens of thousands. They've got their economy's booming. They got companies coming in. They're going to open a battery plant there this coming year.
Yeah.
And they've already got trainers who are living there, and the thing's off to the races. So anyway, it's this great market. But if you're not in Indiana, you've probably never even heard of Kokomo.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are in Indiana, you're probably investing in Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, or maybe wherever you live, if you happen to live in a different town.
Not Gary.
Not Gary. Illinois practically owns them anyway, right?
Yeah, it's the region.
Yeah, we let them secede years ago. So on market, getting broker relationships in secondary and tertiary markets, off market, networking, talking to sellers. And then I do some deal sourcing with marketing. So I have a partner who we split deals together, and he actually sends out letters, so physical mail. And so we're trying to drum up some deals that way. And then I'm also in a commercial mastermind, a real estate mastermind group, and there are deals happening in there as well. So I can participate in somebody else's deal that they found. I can bring people in that I know, whether they're in the group or not, as long as I know about the deal. So I've got probably, I don't know, I listed 4, but I've probably got more like 5 to 10 different sources for deals.
Yeah.
So, great question.
Yes. Well, a lot of business owners think about their legacy and impact. So do you have a vision for your legacy and impact in doing this?
No.
Nope. just about the money, huh?
Well,
And
I think,
the freedom that it gives you.
Yeah. I'm certainly wanting the lifestyle, which for me is freedom. Freedom from having a boss, being tied to a desk. That sort of thing is definitely, which is common in this business. You'll run
Yep.
into a lot of investors who are all about that. But the satisfaction of the job is important. You have to like what you do, and so as far as impact, I'm not looking for like legacy impact. Like, man, in 100 years, no one's even gonna know who I am, who I was. It's so for me, and I'm not trying to be modest or whatever like that. That's just the truth. Um, I think the impact and what I enjoy is fixing up housing and making really great places for people to live.
Yep.
It's super satisfying. It's visual, it's hands-on,
Yeah.
it photographs well, and you can go back and look at what you did. Um, so that part of it is really important to me. And I grew up in rentals. I grew up very poor. And so to come back now and actually be able to own those and to be able to make sure that the sink is never leaking, the furnace is always on in the winter,
Mm-hmm.
there's air conditioning, which, was a luxury when I was a kid. I
Yeah.
want it standard on all my properties. Um, that is enjoyable and important to me. So I think that's the impact part of it. And so yeah, long term, nah, no one's even going to care about me in 100 years. So
Yeah. Eh, but, you could build a business that does all of those things after, you
yeah,
leave, that continues to do those core values and
yeah,
ensures that renters aren't, you know, strung up by their landlord or something.
yeah, for sure, man. Being a proponent of ethical landlording, I think, is good, and moving that forward and helping make the world a better place. After I'm gone, is certainly a thing, and then bringing these young guys up, or
Yep.
gals with me, is something that also excites me. And so maybe there's some piece there, that we could call legacy, or some way of adding value to the world. But yeah, my concern right now is just getting stable and taking care of my family first, and
Yep.
then we'll expand the vision after that.
Okay. Well, Grant, I think had a pretty good first episode together. Probably have you on again if
Awesome, man.
you're up for it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really
yeah,
appreciate it.
definitely. Thanks for coming.
All right.
Thank you for joining us on today's discussion. If you want to know how to accelerate your digital marketing, social media, or business brand online, please contact sales@gain3d.net. We can help set up a strategy session, get the details worked out, get it within your budget, and start accelerating your business today.